Assalamu alaikum. This is Joe Highlight coming to you live here from Highlight Job Buyers. The sale is here and the bargains are here. We won't stop the bargains and we won't stop the sale. And die wat jy gekry het, moet kry. Yes, we are now offering you a fantastic opportunity. We will recover your lounge suite free of charge. That's right, free of charge. All you have to do is purchase the material from our designer collection and we will do the rest. And this is an offer you can't refuse. Find us in Haji Ibrahim Crescent, Athlone Industrial, 638-5136. And die wat jy gekry het, moet kry.
Highlight. Every weekend, my pa takes me to play at Golden Feather Spur Vanguard Mall while he orders a legendary steak.
Yes, Pa's boy. Golden Feather Spur Vanguard Mall is under new management.
Pa, don't forget about the free parking and the large play area for kids.
That's correct, my boy.
Thank you, Pa, for always making my playdate feel special at Golden Feather Spur Vanguard Mall. People with a taste for life.
Now on promotion, Monday to Sunday top-up brekkie between 8:30 and 11 a.m. for only R96.90 at Golden Feather Spur Vanguard Mall. People with a taste for life.
The ShopRite price means you'll get low prices on everything you need. Save with deals like a 5 kg pack of Farmer's Choice frozen mixed chicken portions for just $179.99. An 80-gram Cadbury chocolate slab for $16.99. Save R5. And 4 liters of Right brand cooking oil for only $99.99. Never pay more than the ShopRite price. Offers valid until 9 June in all Western Cape stores, excluding Southern Cape. Only at ShopRite.
Calling on all plumbers. Get into the flow with Buco. Pipes and fittings, drains, water meters, geysers, and more. We have every plumbing product, tool, and accessory you need. Visit our dedicated plumbing counter in store. Buco. Let's build together.
Buco.
You're home away from home. This is the voice of the Cape.
Mornings with Purpose.
Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12. Your mid-morning magazine show.
Empowering women.
Embracing community. On the voice of the Cape.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning and welcome to Mornings with Purpose with your host Ayesha Laatoe. In this program, or this segment rather, we focus on the prescription ice cream by Alastair McAlpine, and he's the author of the book Ice Cream. So we have our guest, Dr. Alastair McAlpine, online with us, who is a specialist pediatrician in palliative care. Dr. Alastair, good morning to you and a warm welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and please feel free just to call me Alastair.
The pleasure is ours. You know, it's amazing when one looks at being a doctor alone might be daunting, but working with children, being a pediatrician, even more, because you sometimes need to do the guessing game, not knowing what is happening to the child because the child cannot express what it is that he is feeling, or, you know, where it is hurting. And here you are a palliative pediatrician, which is, I think, beyond, you know, perception, basically, because it is so very important, you know, the feelings and that connection with your patient as well, no matter how small or how big the child is.
Yeah, you know, absolutely. And working with children is one of the most rewarding things a person can do. And it's certainly been the honor of my life. And working with these children in particular who are facing really serious or life-ending conditions, you know, is an absolute privilege, but also a huge challenge, because they have so many needs, their families have so many needs. It's very complicated. And it's weird because in medicine, we're always told we must cure at all costs and we must fix and we must always make better. But sometimes we're confronted by the reality that some children don't get better. And we need to have a plan for how to deal with those kids compassionately and kindly so that we can make sure that we honor their lives.
Indeed. When you wrote this book, was it more important for you to know the patient themselves, and so that the book is beneficial to the patient, but also, you know, one for the parent to understand what the child is really enduring, and that is so nearing the end of his life, which is sometimes more daunting to the parent than to the child himself?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think what I wanted to do with the book was a few things. Was first to highlight the need for palliative care, because we don't have enough palliative care services in the country or even in the province, and there is such a need to provide this care for children and their families who need it. I think it's also to highlight that it's a family disease, and that we need to focus on the families and the children themselves, because both have very different needs. And sometimes you might find that the family thinks that the best thing to do is this thing, and the doctors think the best thing to do is something else. And that was highlighted with one of my patients who sort of changed my whole perspective, where a young man was very unwell in hospital, and all the doctors thought that the best thing to do was to keep him in hospital and do more tests. And when we spoke to the young man himself, he wanted to go home, and he wanted to be with his family, and he wanted to be with his dog, and he wanted to be with his sisters and brothers. And we realized that what we should have been doing was not finding out the next fancy test to try and keep him in hospital for longer, but to try and do everything we could to make his wishes known, so that he could go home and do what he loved, which was being with his loved ones and his pets. And so we realized that sometimes keeping people in hospital forever and doing a million tests and poking and prodding is not actually in the patient's best interests. And what we need to do is really listen to patients and their families and say, what is it that you guys want, and how can we help to make that happen?
So when we look at the purpose of your book, then obviously I see there's more than one fold here. It's not just the approach of the doctor, but also that of the child or the patient and the parent, but also your book is a guideline to many other doctors, I would say, as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have had that experience where we've gone to a doctor and they've been rushed and they've been tired and they haven't really listened to our problems, and they've given us some tablets and ushered us out the office very quickly, and we haven't felt heard and we haven't felt really respected, because we all want, when we have an issue and we're feeling unwell, we want someone to really listen to our concerns. And so I feel that a lot of doctors, and it's not because they're bad people, it's often just because they're so busy, but a lot of doctors are not meeting their patients' needs, and the patients are feeling unhappy and the doctors are feeling unhappy, and no one is really feeling very happy. And so I think that there needs to be a change in the way that we approach our patients, and a change in the way that we deal with patients, so that we're not just physically fixing a hurt knee or a sore head. We're meeting patients on their spiritual needs, on their emotional needs, on their physical needs, so that so that people really feel like they're being heard and understood, rather than just a sick organ that needs some surgery or some medications to fix. And so I think we all need to be better at that.
Indeed. Alastair, so the question I'd love to ask you, before we speak about, being a palliative pediatrician, what inspired you to become this doctor that you are today? To do medicine?
So I always knew I wanted to. Well, from internship, I knew I wanted to work with children, because children are amazing. And if you've ever worked with them, and the way they just blow raspberries at you when you're feeling sad and stuff, working with kids is the best. I actually didn't really want to go into palliative care. The universe kind of nudged me into it. I was waiting for a post in another specialty, and the post got frozen. And so I was kind of jobless for a while. And I had worked with the palliative care guys while I was doing my training, and they reached out and they said, look, we're looking for someone to step in. One of our colleagues is going on maternity leave. We need you to please step in. And so I thought, gosh, okay, I guess I'll do that. And so I did. And it turned out to be one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And, what happened was I was chatting to these children who were so unwell, and they all were able to just find joy and happiness, even with all of the stuff that they were facing. And I couldn't believe it. And so I said to them, what is it that makes you happy? And they told me, and they gave me all of the answers, and I wrote them all down. And I sent it off in a thread on Twitter, when that's what it was still called. And that's really what inspired the book, was the lessons in life from these kids of all faiths, of all religions, of all colors, of all creeds. They all identified exactly the same things, the stuff that makes us happy. And sometimes we all need to be reminded about what's really important in life.
Indeed, there's something I want to share with you. I have a grandson who was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 4. He is cancer-free currently, thanks to God. And, whilst he was in hospital, it was like we found our strength in him. The way he conducted himself, how he carried himself, how he would just give his arm for the drip to be put up, for the treatment that he received, and all of that. So the strength of a child is sometimes very much underestimated. Does this come through in your book as well? And maybe sometimes also what it is, what their needs are, what they want is always sometimes decided by somebody else for them.
100%. The kids are so brave and they're amazing. And I draw so much inspiration from how brave they are and the things that they have to face on a daily basis, and also how brave their families are, the sacrifices that their families make. They'll literally do anything for their kids, and that's also, just super inspiring for me. And I think you're absolutely correct that sometimes what the doctors think is best and sometimes what the patients think is best are different. And it's really important always that we take into account what the patients are looking for and what their hopes and expectations are, and not impose our thoughts and beliefs on them, because that's how people get unhappy. And certainly I've learned and tried over the years to listen more and speak less, because patients will tell you, firstly, they'll tell you what's wrong, and then secondly, they'll tell you what they want.
Indeed. So when you say, the title of the book is Ice Cream. Tell us about it. And you've mentioned you tweeted about this as well. So you chose this title. Why?
So when I was talking about that, the thread earlier, and I said to all of the kids, what is it that makes you happy? And a couple of big themes emerged. And a few of the themes were, none of them cared about money very much. None of them cared about social media or how many followers they had or TV. What they all cared about, and a few things, were quality time with their friends and family, being outside in nature, hearing stories and being read stories by their parents, superheroes, and feeling brave and inspired by other people and people who treated them kindly. And the final thing that they all liked, every single one of them, was ice cream. They all said, we just love ice cream. We love it because it makes us feel better. It soothes some of the sores in our mouth. We can share it with our friends. We can have it by ourselves. We can share it with our parents. It's this lovely communal thing. You can have it when you're happy. You can have it when you're sad. And so I'm not advocating that we all eat a lot of ice cream, because obviously we should have it in moderation. But the point was to say that in the right context, sometimes the right prescription for people is not more drugs and needles and knives. The correct prescription is just some ice cream.
Okay. When you did your studies, you're obviously not from the Western Cape, but tell us about moving in between provinces and how it benefited you as well as a doctor, and your insight into your pediatrics as well.
Sure. So I was born and bred in Johannesburg, and I did, all of my schooling there. And then I came down to UCT for my undergraduate studies. And then when I finished my internship, staying in Cape Town for internship is quite challenging because there's a lot of demand. So I decided that I would go back to Gauteng, and I would work at Chris Hani Baragwanath, which is the first section of the book where I talk about what it's like to work as a junior doctor in a crazy healthcare system that is often sort of feels like it's on the verge of collapse. What I would say is that I think it is beneficial to experience how medicine is practiced in different parts of the country, because it's not all, the Western Cape has usually got, sort of from a public health perspective, some of the best hospitals. But that's not the case elsewhere. And I think if you only stay in one place, you might get a bit of a skewed perspective. And so it was really eye-opening to see that not all of the hospitals in our country have clean floors and have, dedicated staff and have all of the working equipment. And that's important because you have to learn how to adapt and work in those environments. And so for me, it was an eye-opener to be able to work in hospitals throughout the country, to get a better perspective of how everybody in South Africa gets treated, because it's not always like the Western Cape.
When you read your book, when you reflect, on your past and your growing up, have you encountered any illness prior to you becoming, a medical student for that matter? Was there somebody in your family that inspired you to do medicine in the first place?
So funny, not really. My family and I were blessed with mostly with good health. Of course, there was some people in the family, but for the most part, it wasn't a sick human being very close to me who inspired me. I think I just always wanted to get into it. But one thing I discovered when I was in medical school for myself, and it makes up the second part of the book, was that I developed a crippling addiction to alcohol. And I ended up having to leave medical school and go into a rehabilitation center to deal with that addiction. And, you know, obviously now I've stopped drinking and I've been sober for 20 years, but, you know, to experience what it's like to have a very serious mental illness like that, and to be in a mental hospital, and then to have to go through the rehabilitation process and to go through everything like that, I think it gave me a real sense of what it's like to be a patient, what it's like to be on the other end of a stethoscope, what it's like to be in an environment when hope is lost and you feel very alone and you feel like your life has completely crumbled around you. And I think I would like to think that gives me a better sense of what my patients might be feeling. And I hope it's ultimately made me a better physician.
So would you say that, you know, your experience amplified your role as being a doctor today and doing what is best for your patient as well, and listening, having that ear to listen to your patient?
Yeah, I think so, because I've been a patient and I've been a very, very ill myself, and I've seen what it's like when the doctor at the other end doesn't listen, and I've seen what it's like and I've felt what it's like to be at your lowest ebb when you feel like there is no hope and that everything is very dark. And so I think when you've been there, you have an empathy for your patients who are also there that perhaps other people who've never been there don't know or haven't experienced. And so I think it really has helped, because I think patients can sense when you're being sincere and when you really understand where they're at, rather than kind of just being like, oh gosh, I'm sure this is very difficult for you, but you'll be okay, hang in there.
Yes.
When you're able to really empathize, I think that they are able to sense that.
Is there a catchphrase in your book that you might want to share with the listeners and get them, you know, grasping to it, to want to get this book, you know, from the shelves as well?
I think that there's a few messages in the book. I think for me, if there was a single catchphrase, it's that hope is a beautiful thing and hope can be found anywhere. If you are going through a tough time, please hang on and reach out for help, because help is available, and that you can find hope and meaning and beauty in some of the darkest, most unexpected places. I'd also like to emphasize, I think that, you know, my book sounds very, very heavy, and there's a lot of lightheartedness and stories to it as well. So it's not just one big like, oh, this is heavy, but you know, there is a lot of pain and a lot of growing that happens to me and to my patients throughout in the book. And I think the message would be, hang on, there is hope, and focus on the simple things in life, because those are the things that will bring you happiness. It's not the flashy car. It's not the big bank account. It's not the superficial friends. Those may provide very temporary joy, but real happiness lies in your family, your friends, your faith, your time outside in nature, and eating a little bit of ice cream every now and then.
Sure. Alastair, the book was launched not too long ago. Where is it available?
So prescription ice cream is available in all good bookstores, Exclusive Books, Wordsworth, and online if anyone would like a copy of the ebook. So it should be available pretty much at any good bookstore. It's got a really lovely blue cover that I think looks great with a little ice cream on it and some medical instruments. It's a book of love that I wrote over 4 years. That I hope, and I've seemed to receive really excellent feedback so far, but I really hope that readers get some joy from seeing what it's like to be a doctor in South Africa, get some hope from seeing that addiction and mental health problems can be overcome, and can glean wisdom and meaning from the children that I worked with over the course of a few years.
It took you 4 years to pen this book. Are we going to take another 4 years to get to read the other book? It's easier as it goes along, isn't it? So it shouldn't take that long.
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know what the next step is. I'd have to have some words with my publisher on that. But certainly writing is a lovely thing. And once you do get writing and you receive feedback from people that they've enjoyed reading it, then you start to think, well, maybe I should write something else. So currently I'm not writing anything. I hope it's not another 4 years, but I don't have anything in the pipeline right now.
Well, we want to wish you all the best, all the success, and to say that great palliative pediatrician that you are as well. Until we speak again next time, who knows? All the best and take care.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye-bye for now.
There's something special about Chikro Food Market, hence the reason I shop there. I love cooking so much. Shopping at Chikro Food Market makes you feel at home. You're not just a customer, you're